What if the loudest protest in 2025 doesn't march in the streets, but explodes on millions of screens? In 2025, protests can arrive as a flood of traffic, a homepage replaced with a manifesto, or a midnight data dump. These actions look like activism, but they also break laws, disrupt services, and intimidate people. Today, we'll map the landscape: who acts, how they act, and why it matters for governments, companies, and ordinary users. Stick with me. I'll unpack tactics, real campaigns, and concrete defenses so you can spot risks before they bite. Let's define hacktivism simply. It's political protest using hacking techniques. The goal is influence, attention, pressure, exposure, rather than direct profit. That motive matters, but so do results. A leak that reveals corruption is different from a campaign that publishes private addresses. In 2025, the lines blur. Some groups act like volunteers. Others behave like proxies or criminals. Next, we'll walk the spectrum of players and why that ambiguity unsettles democracies. Forget the lone hacker movie trope. Modern hacktivism moves like a grassroots movement with campaign logistics. Public channels and encrypted apps coordinate volunteers. Small cores hold technical skills. The crowd amplifies messages and performs simple tasks. Think of it as a flash mob with a command center. Coordination is fast, noisy, and media-savvy, which makes response harder. Up next, the recruitment tactics and crowdsourced mechanics that let thousands join within hours. Crowdsourcing lowers barriers. Organizers post tasks, flood this page, share this banner, mirror these files. Volunteers range from social sharers to developers contributing scripts. Many actions rely on pre-built tools and simple instructions. That scale creates spectacle, but it also creates noise. Some participants don't understand legal risk. Meanwhile, defenders struggle to tell genuine expertise from hype. Next, we'll examine the media-first instinct and why visuals and hashtags shape outcomes more than the code itself. Groups think like PR shops. A slick statement or a provocative screenshot is often as valuable as the technical action. Rapid claims and glossy graphics crowd the narrative. Sometimes, groups claim credit for outages they didn't cause. The result: verification lags, reporters chase claims, and audiences amplify raw assertions. That cycle can turn small incidents into major stories. Next, I'll walk you through the 6 most common tactics you'll see in headlines and security feeds. DDoS overwhelms a website with traffic to knock it offline. It's the classic digital sit-in, but it's illegal in many places. Groups use botnets or crowdsourced traffic tools to flood targets. For defenders, mitigation means traffic filtering. Scrubbing and failover paths. Managed services make a huge difference, but DDoS also buys headlines even when it's short-lived. Up next, website defacement. Quick, visible, and culturally potent in a way that screenshots love. Website defacement is digital graffiti. Attackers swap a homepage for a political message. It's public and shareable, and it hits brand perception immediately. Vulnerable CMS platforms and outdated plugins are common entry points. Good patching and careful publishing workflows prevent many of these incidents. Defacement is less about deep access and more about visibility, and that makes it a first-choice stunt for groups seeking attention. Next, we'll unpack hack and leak, which cuts deeper and complicates verification. Hack and leak is a breach followed by data disclosure. Leaks can expose corruption, but they can also be cherry-picked, doctored, or weaponized. Journalists and researchers often must verify authenticity and context before publication. Leaks shape narratives and can force accountability, yet they also risk exposing private data about individuals. The key for defenders and reporters is verification and responsible redaction. Coming next, doxing, a tactic that targets people, not just institutions. Doxing publishes personal data, names, addresses, family details, to intimidate or punish. It moves harm from the abstract to the doorstep. Unlike symbolic disruption, doxing endangers real people and often crosses legal and ethical lines. It destroys privacy and can trigger harassment campaigns. Digital rights groups condemn it, and platforms are under pressure to intervene faster. Next, social engineering and account takeovers, the human weaknesses that let attackers bypass technical barriers. Information operations shape how the public sees an incident. Memes, edited clips, and AI-generated audio can make a small hack look catastrophic. A well-packaged narrative spreads faster than facts travel. That's why attribution and provenance matter more than ever. Independent verification outfits and newsroom forensics are rising to the challenge. But before we talk defense, let's look at real campaigns that taught the world these lessons, starting with the Russia-Ukraine flashpoint. The Russia-Ukraine conflict since 2022 resurrected volunteer IT armies and flood-style campaigns. Both pro- and anti-state collectives launched waves of DDoS, defacements, and leaks against media, transport, and government services. These campaigns showed how publics can be mobilized across borders and how attribution becomes contested. Analysts also spotted personas that appeared coordinated or state-aligned. Next, the spectacle-driven groups that turned DDoS into a media brand and what that taught defenders. Groups like KillNet and NoName 05716 used crowd participation and dramatic messaging to become brands. Their output focused on spectacle, frequent outages, and bold public claims. They proved that visibility can be as strategic as technical depth. Security teams learned to separate noise from genuine escalation. Meanwhile, researchers warned of possible coordination with state actors. Next, the Belarus cyber partisans, a contrasting example where ideology and local context shaped operations differently. Across the Middle East and other hotspots, spikes in defacements and leaks often mirror political escalation. Attackers hit energy, media, and public services, sectors chosen for symbolic impact. These campaigns spread fast and drew international attention, even when technical effects were modest. The takeaway: symbolism often beats technical damage when the audience is watching. That leans to the thorny legal and ethical question: are these actors activists or criminals? The legal and ethical edge is sharp. Intent may be political, but the law targets actions. Unauthorized access, DDoS, and damaging systems are illegal in most jurisdictions. Ethics hinge on impact. Exposing criminality might help accountability. Publishing private data or endangering civilians crosses a line. The whistleblower comparison helps, but hacktivists rarely follow whistleblower protocols. Next, we'll explore intent versus impact and why public sympathy can evaporate quickly. Intent versus impact matters. A campaign claiming noble aims loses support if bystanders suffer. Leaks that reveal corruption can be vital. Leaks that expose children or non-combatants are harmful. Laws are clear about unauthorized access, but public opinion is fickle. Popular sympathy rises when actions seem to speak truth to power and collapses when harm appears indiscriminate. Coming up, state-aligned gray zones and how strategic ambiguity complicates response and policy. 3 shifts explain the 2025 surge: low-friction tooling, the attention economy of conflict, and platform-driven polarization. Tooling lowers technical barriers. Media dynamics reward spectacle. Algorithms amplify outrage. These forces combine to accelerate campaigns and blur truth. Add AI, automated content, deepfakes, synthetic audio, and verification becomes harder. Next section drills into tooling, the services, scripts, and mirror networks that make noisy campaigns painless to launch. Low-friction tooling matters. DDoS for hire services, scripted toolkits, leak hosting, and mirror sites let less technically skilled actors punch above their weight. The result? Higher volume of incidents and faster cycles. Defenders must assume attackers can assemble a capability set overnight. Next, we'll talk about the attention economy, how conflict narratives and the thirst for speed distort what gets covered, and why that fuels hacktivism. The attention economy rewards speed and spectacle. Newsrooms chase breaking claims. Social platforms reward emotional engagement. That dynamic means a minor outage, if well packaged, can become a major story. Attackers design incidents to exploit this pattern. For organizations, narrative management becomes as important as technical defense. Next, AI's role. Not just in attacks, but in making fake evidence more convincing and verification more complex. Preparation beats panic. Assume you are a potential target if you're public-facing or political. Start by mapping your critical attack surfaces: websites, APIs, DNS, and login portals. Know your dependencies. Build a DDoS playbook with your scrubbing provider and practice failovers. Enforce multi-factor authentication and least privilege access. Those steps are unglamorous but effective. Next, we'll break these recommendations into practical, testable actions your team can adopt this quarter. Concrete actions: test your DDoS failover, patch public-facing CMS and plugins, and lock down admin access. Create templated comms for service disruption and verification statements. Train spokespeople on social discipline and no-comment scenarios. Verify alleged leaks with legal and IR teams before amplifying them. Run tabletop exercises that include false claim scenarios and journalist pressure. Next, we'll talk about partnerships. Who to call when the noise starts and why those relationships matter. Partnerships speed response. Maintain lines to your CDN or scrubbing provider, your national CERT, and local law enforcement. Brief media partners and trusted researchers ahead of time. Having those contacts shortens investigation time and reduces knee-jerk reactions. Also consider protective programs for at-risk groups. Next, individual actions. Simple security habits that protect most people from collateral effects of campaigns. Hacktivism changes power dynamics. Small groups can pressure large institutions quickly. Outrage cycles compress into hours, not weeks. Anonymous claims and false flags complicate accountability. Democracies must balance space for dissent with laws that protect civilians online. That tension forces policy trade-offs about speech, privacy, and enforcement. Next, what to expect next in 2025. Hybrid ops, faster claims, and sector focus driven by symbolism and impact. Looking ahead, expect more hybrid operations pairing technical actions with coordinated narratives. Claims will appear faster and messier, often with AI-generated evidence. Energy, finance, media, and public services remain prime symbolic targets. Regulatory regimes like NIS2 raise resilience standards and reporting obligations. Independent verification groups and provenance features on platforms will matter more. The practical takeaway is simple: invest in resilience and credibility. Next, I'll debunk common myths to sharpen your judgment in a crisis. Myth 1. Site down means hacktivist. Reality: outages happen. Myth 2. Leaks always prove a claim. Reality: leaks need context and verification. Myth 3. Nothing deters DDoS. Reality: architecture and managed protection reduce impact. Myth 4. Leaks speak for themselves. Reality: they require ethical handling to avoid collateral harm. Understanding these myths helps you avoid amplifying false claims. Next, a crisp readiness checklist leaders can use today to be less vulnerable. 10 readiness items. Know your public assets. Test DDoS protection. Enforce MFA. Patch internet-facing software. Apply least privilege. Have comms templates with legal sign-off. Run tabletop exercises. Handle leaks responsibly. Brief executives on social discipline. And maintain CERT relationships. These steps are boring but effective. They keep organizations out of the headlines. Finally, we'll recap the core lessons and leave you with the one mindset that matters in a digital protest era. If you lead a team, prioritize playbooks and rehearsal. If you sit on a newsroom desk, prioritize verification and provenance. If you're an individual, lock down your accounts and slow down before sharing. Hacktivism will keep evolving, but resilience and credibility remain the best defenses. Ready for resources and a simple tabletop scenario you can run this month? Stay tuned for links and a quick walkthrough to practice what we just covered. Before we close, remember this: the medium changed protest, but the core trade-offs didn't. Visibility versus harm, speed versus verification, anonymity versus accountability. In 2025, those trade-offs play out faster and with more actors. Your role is to slow the tempo when needed and insist on evidence. If you want a short checklist to pin on your wall or pass to leadership, I've got a compact version coming now. And then a quick exercise you can run in 1 hour. 1 hour exercise. Simulate a defacement claim plus a false leak. Assign roles: comms, legal, IR, sysadmin, and a journalist. Practice verifying the leak, issuing a calm holding statement, and toggling failure. Timebox each decision to build muscle memory. This small rehearsal solves friction you'll face in real incidents. Want the script and roll cards to run it? I'll include them in the description and walk you through one example in the pinned resources. Resources to bookmark: CISA and ENISA guides on DDoS and incident response, EFF resources for at-risk groups, and independent verification teams for provenance checks. Protective programs like negotiated CDN support can be lifesavers for NGOs and media. I'll link these resources in the description so you can act without hunting. If you want a one-page incident checklist formatted for Slack, I've prepared that too, and I'll point you to it now. Thanks for sticking with this deep dive. Digital protest in 2025 is messy, fast, and consequential. But with simple defenses and better skepticism, organizations and citizens can reduce harm and preserve accountability. If you want the one-page checklist, tabletop script, and resource pack, hit the link in the description. Lastly, I'll ask one question for the comments. What's your organization's weakest public surface right now? Tell us and we'll discuss practical fixes. If this helped, like and subscribe for practical security explainers. Comment one weak public surface your team should patch, and I'll share a tailored tip in the replies.